Hello, everyone. We're excited. Get that energy level up. Get ready because we are going to talk more about handbooks. Today, we're going to talk about the top 5 things you should have in your employee handbook. So, yes, you need to have an employee handbook before you get started.
Before.
Policies and procedures and all the things are important. So, of course, you need to have those policies and procedures, but we will identify specific ones here in a moment. It's important for clear understanding, right? And I don't know. I'm not going to go through the top 5 today. We're just going to take it one by one.
Why?
Because okay. Well, the third one is leave and benefits policies.
Yes.
The fourth one is procedures for reporting and addressing grievances. And the fifth one is termination. I don't know. Maybe that just sounded bleak to me and I just don't want to go there yet. Anyway, so we will start with the first one. Comprehensive policies on confidentiality and privacy. Those are very important things. They are critical for protecting client information and complying with HIPAA regulations, and they should be in your employee handbook.
Yes. And you probably also, and we talked about this the last one, but you probably also need HIPAA policies above and beyond the notice of privacy practices and how we protect PHI. Like a breach response, a sanctions policy, data backup policy, risk assessment, all that good stuff. We're not going to get into that stuff. That'll be another podcast. But how you protect PHI, what if there is an issue? How are you going to report it? Right. Those are the things that would be in the employee handbook. Like things like social media policy on, don't post pictures of clients on your TikTok. That may seem obvious. Email policy, so they're not destroying records. If you're doing this willy-nilly on the fly, you may have a lot of productive health information in your email. So you just want to make sure that you have a policy on that, unless you have a very robust system where, no, we don't email back and forth session notes or treatment plans. And of course I have a backup of that somewhere. But if you don't, then it's really important that you just have like an across the company ban on deleting emails, period, end of story. You can put them in a folder or wherever, but we don't delete emails. Never, ever, ever, right? That may be just something that you want to put in there just in case. It may even come to, if there's important information that you told to a client or an employee in email, you want to save those. So again, having that ban on that can help with privacy, protecting client information, things like that.
Yeah. What comes to mind when I think of this is, a lot of times on social media, a lot of the groups, for BCBA business owners, you'll hear the question a lot of, or even from BCBA or text too, but the question will get asked a lot about, what if I have a company logo shirt on when I'm accompanying a family to a park or something like that? Those types of questions, like for privacy, right? Those types of questions get asked so much. And while they are important to look at and decide how you're going to address those things and to what level, there is a layer of privacy policy, I can't say that word today, confidentiality policy, kind of on that businessy level that we don't think of.
Yeah, it's way worse too. Way worse.
And there's so many more mistakes and so many more, unknowns in that level, that realm of it, more so than what if I have a company t-shirt on when I go to the park with a client? What if I have an autism bumper sticker on my car and I'm parked in front of there? Whatever, like any of that stuff, which I'm not saying is not important to think about, decide where you stand on it as a company. But this layer of emails and texting and pictures and, what if I'm just going to text, I'm going to take a couple of pictures for my client's program because my BCBA asked me to send something, or the BCBA is hey, tech, when you're there, can you send me blah, 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 and then you send it. What if there's, the live versions on and maybe they catch the client in the background and then you text it on your personal phone and then it's in your iCloud and then it's in
Yes. Or even like issues with email, like phishing emails, or that's where you're going to run into issues. You're like the issue isn't going to be what do I do if a staff member has to Uber to a client's house. That, like, in the scheme of things, that's not as big a concern as some person clicking on an email that looks legit and it's got a link in there and then it puts spyware on that device. Like, that's where the risk is, right? Like, on the level of things that I would worry about, right? It's that. So that's all. Like, it's really important that you have a good understanding of electronic safety for your staff, because I can guarantee you that there's going to be some technology allergic staff. Just don't know that you can't push buttons on a screenshot.
Well, I mean, or like you have your, my generation, I'm gonna, like nearing 50, right?
What?
I didn't grow up on computers. I don't know, right? And I'm not saying everybody that's like my age is like dumb at computers, but like, there's just a lot of things that I didn't think about, or I didn't think of. I don't think about how it all works and behind the scenes and all the pieces of it. Like, I might think about other parts of the business in the more even in the clinical side of things, right? My brain is very analytical and thinking about all the different options and all the different scenarios and where things could fail and how things could go bad and what I need to do to like put all those procedures in place. But behind the scenes of the technology stuff, that's just not something that I think about sometimes, right? Or I didn't. Oh, now Stephen taught me all the things.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that really, that gives a general covering of that confidentiality and privacy. You gotta have it in there. You have to. So the next is the clear understanding of what happens in an emergency or an accident. We talked a little bit about this. I don't know. I even feel like maybe I should stop saying, we talked about this in other podcasts, unless I could like tell you podcast 3 on season 2. I don't know, right? Because we talk about this stuff a lot, and some things we repeat ourselves numerous times, and I think that's your benefit. That's listening and watching. Your benefit. So that because these are the things that are super important. But in emergency, in accident, so you need the basic fire. Depending on whether you're clinic or you're in home, sometimes these apply to both. Fire safety. What do you call it? Like the weather, like tornadoes, or if you live in an area where there's mudslides and flooding and forest fire, like that type of fire versus an in-structure fire. You've got active shooter. You've got thunderstorms. If you live in an area where thunderstorms can produce tornadoes or bad weather really quickly. Do I send do we put a hold on sessions, or do we send staff out in that weather, or do we wait? Allergies that are life-threatening allergies, animals.
And then like what happens in that situation? So like, okay, you have these policies, but yet it's still something terrible happen. What does the staff do in that? Obviously it's get to safety, call 911. That's having the parent in the home. Like, there's got to be an adult in the home. That's why, because you don't want to be responsible for grandma who's in the bedroom upstairs, or if there are 4 kids in the home, you just, that's not your staff's. While we don't want anything terrible to happen, it's not your staff's responsibility to say, man, I could have saved 2 more kids if I just had more time. Like that, like who wants that, right?
Even in clinic, right? Like we hear the discussion a lot about, is it okay for one staff member to be there alone with children, whether it's 1 or more? And our advice is no. Like, you should always have that second adult, whether you're in clinic or in home. You always have to. It just depends on what type of adult. Whether it's in clinic, it's going to be one of your staff members, versus in home, it has to be a guardian or of age person of able body.
Right. You may want to look at your professional liability, general liability insurance plans, because they may stipulate who has to be there, and if your insurance is even valid if no one's in the home and you're kind of babysitter / ABA person. Like, so those are just things that you need to make sure. And then, okay, we've gotten through the emergency. Now we need to fill out the incident report, and we want to fill that out as quickly as possible so that the incident is fresh in the person's mind. And then what do we do with the incident report? So, we should have a safety officer, and safety officer should review it. And then how do we do our best to prevent this thing from ever happening again, if there's anything that we can do? Now, obviously, there are some things that just aren't preventable, but if there are things in this that are preventable, or maybe some way we can mitigate some of that risk, then we should do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what you kind of want to have on that. And then the other piece of an emergency or an accident is, did the staff get injured? Is there a workers' comp claim, right? So like all of these things are really important that you have in place. Running an ABA practice comes with its unique set of challenges.
Absolutely. And while you're focused on providing the best care, it's essential to have solid foundations for your practice's operations.
That's where our company policy manual comes in. Designed specifically for ABA practices, it's your comprehensive guide to setting clear expectations and procedures.
It covers everything from your detailed job descriptions to how to handle unexpected situations that might arise in your practice.
This isn't just any manual, it is tailored with ABA practices in mind, ensuring that you're prepared for both day-to-day operation and the unexpected.
And the best part? It's fully customizable. You can adapt it to fit your practice's specific needs and culture, making sure it works for you and your team.
Don't let administrative uncertainty slow you down. With our company policy manual, you'll have peace of mind to focus on what you do best, helping your clients thrive.
Head over to 3Pi Squared to get your copy. Start building a stronger, more organized practice today.
Oh, and don't forget, it comes with free updates.
Yeah, that's important that you definitely know workers' comp, right? Because even things like if you're doing in home, employee slips on an icy step going into the house, or slips and that has a trip or fall,
an accident on the way to work, or on to and from a client,
right? That or gets injured by the client, like a fight
by
or
accident,
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So any small injury is a worker's. On the job is a workers' comp thing. Sometimes I think that also gets overlooked and forgotten about.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So I think that covers the big pieces of emergency policies needed. So the next is the third thing is detailed leave and benefits policies. So it's very important to outline the types of leave available, whether it be PTO, FMLA, and eligibility for benefits, promoting that supportive work environment. Yeah. So if you have is sick time separate from vacation time, or is it just all paid time off and you can use it however you want, right? What happens if they leave? Do they get their PTO, or is it, and does it carry over from year to year? These are things, again, we're not attorneys. And so, you need to follow your state regs on how staff accumulate paid time off, if there are any rules on that in your state. But, you want to have an outline on this. And even how do I use my paid time off? How much notice do I have to give? And, these are things that I know because we were there, and many of the people that we consult with have struggled with this. We say you need to give 2 weeks notice, and I don't follow it, and and then I follow it for a little bit, and I can't. How do I hold people to account? What if they only do a week and 5 days instead of 14 days, right? What do I do? Do I give it to them? Do I not? So having a good system in place for how you allow it, and something that you're going to stick with, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, change as the needs change, but then of course, updating the policies and procedures and notifying everyone. It's even a lot of the small pieces as far as how do they ask for time off? Is it a first come, first served basis? Is it especially if you're smaller and you have fewer staff, or you only have one BCBA, and you have certain things that have to run, with that particular staff member there, like, people get sick, they get sick, but knowing those very specific policies, knowing who to call, or how do you call if you woke up sick, or you have a sick child at home and you're not able to come into work, who do you call? How do you remedy that? Do you call the client? Do you call the front office?
Right.
Like all of those, like just think about just essentially a task analysis of every tiny step that's necessary for each variation of call out it needed. And it can be difficult too, because you can't, like, what are your what's, like, if it goes out of the bound, right? Like if you're like, okay, you must have 2 weeks notice or whatever, or I only have X amount of certain staff like staff descriptions, like that, like certain what am I trying to say, like RBT or BCBA or admin, you can only have a certain amount of those out at a time. But let's say there's a wedding and it takes several people. That's the big things, right? Like you can't tell someone no, they can't go to a friend's wedding, especially if they're asking in for like a year in advance, or can you, right? And then like lots of these questions get asked, right? And so then like looking at, do you have substitutes? Do you have floaters? Do you have, how do you handle a situation when you're understaffed? Do you close services for the day?
Right.
Let's say a sickness goes through, or, natural disaster happens. Do you close?
Yeah. And, another frequently asked question is, what do you do if you do offer pay time off and they use it all up? Like, do we allow them to take another day off, or how does that work? And so having all of this easy to understand, expectations are there and you follow, right? Like with any of these policies and procedures, I know you said we need to stop talking about previous podcasts, but like we talked about this at a previous podcast. So if you read,
people are going to make a drinking game out of that.
If you read your policies and you're like, I don't like the sound of it, then, this isn't something you are going to follow, right? You're not going to hold somebody to account. So like, don't do that, right? Like, make the policy something that you can actually follow and you will hold people to account. And so if that's like, okay, they have to give me 3 days notice, but everybody on Facebook says I have to give. Who cares, right? Like, if you're good with that and you can live with that, then live with that, and then maybe you get comfortable with that, and then you make it 4 days, right? Like, it's do you don't like, and so it has to be something that you feel good about,
right? And you figure out like what has to take place for you to make it happen.
Yeah.
If it's a really small shop here, and like you're like, oh, okay, well, I just have to go fill in for them if they can't go, and I just need to know in time to like drive there,
right?
Or I'm already at the clinic and I can just step in.
Right.
Okay, you can go take care of this thing. I'll step in free. I mean,
and that may work for a little bit.
Yeah, but then as you grow,
you're like, I can't handle this no more, and then you put something in, right?
Exactly.
But it needs to be something that you can follow, that you're going to hold people to account. You're going to treat everybody equally. Because if you fire someone over this policy because they didn't follow it 5 times, and they can prove that no one else followed this thing, they're getting unemployment. So, at minimum, right? So it really needs to be something that you're comfortable holding people account to, and you'll hold yourself to account too, right? Because people watch you. And so if you're like just calling out and doing whatever you want, then, that may probably, anyway.
We told you it was going to be, it was just going to be one of those podcasts. All right. So the next thing, number 4.
I think we're on number 4.
4, procedures for reporting and addressing grievances. So,
and I would also add whistleblowing.
Well, these establish a clear process for employees to report concerns and how these concerns will be resolved.
Yeah. So like, there's no, what is it? Oh my goodness, I can't think of the word. There's no, holy crow, what is that word? When somebody complains about something and you get attacked because you complained about it. What's that? There's like a word for that.
Brain fog?
Yeah, brain fog.
Brain fog's the word.
Retaliation.
Oh,
man.
Good job. You got
that
it.
took a long time. That felt like at least 10 minutes. Probably was more like a minute. But anyway, so yeah, there's no retaliation involved in this. That they because if one thing that we talk about quite often, not on a podcast that I can recall, is like gossip is very toxic, right? And so if there's we want this to be an easy process where people can come with concerns and complaints, so that they're not left to the only other option, which is gossip and complain to others and say, I don't know, nothing ever happens around here. Like, we just don't want that.
Is going to take your business down faster.
Yeah. So like, you really want to make sure that you have a real easy way for people to express concerns, and they feel like when they do express concerns that that it's important, because it is important, and that they will be resolved in a timely manner. Now, obviously, not everything can be resolved and made perfect, but there is an attempt to remove that barrier or that concern from the system, if possible.
And then, I almost hate to say this because I can't remember who to give credit for, but there was some research done. I can't remember now, but something to the fact of
retaliation.
Retaliation. If there's a problem at work and you bring a problem to your superior, and you're like, there's like an open door, real open door policy, and there's like that compassion and genuineness there, and you go and you share these concerns, and you feel heard and validated, and you see some action, that there is some change or something going towards like what your situation was.
An attempt, right?
An attempt. It can increase job satisfaction more. Which I remember reading that, and I was thinking, oh, well, that's really interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more demoralizing than, I think it's an Office episode where you got a complaint, here's the complaint department, and it's a trash can, right? Like if that's really what people feel like, then there is nothing left but to complain and gossip, right? Because that's all there is. And like you said, nothing is more, there is nothing more toxic than that. That's like you have this environment, and then you bring on a new person, and the first thing they hear is, yeah, that thing's been broken for 8 months. They're never going to fix it. Like, wow, okay, I'm in the wrong place.
Right.
Right. So you just, if you can have that open environment where people feel, because they should feel this, that their opinion matters, that you want to remove barriers from their job, that their concerns will be addressed and resolved. It's just really important. And then I do highly recommend having a whistleblower policy. Again, it may not be necessary, hopefully, if there's 3 employees, but when you get to 50 and you're not in everything, you don't know every staff member, you don't know every parent, you don't know every funder anymore. You don't know who's billing, or you may know the person, but you're not watching it.
You don't have any kind of relationship with, and you're kind of observing from afar.
You're just not in as intimate into the process,
which is okay and normal.
Yes, as you're not micromanaging and controlling every second of every day anymore, because you can't. Then you do want that whistleblower policy, because you want that open door policy, but you also want people to say, no, this is not being done correctly. There's, I've seen abuse, or we're billing fraudulently, or something, so you want that whistleblower policy so they can go to someone, and that this could potentially save your practice, right? So these are just important things that, again, many people just say, yeah, I'm going to wing it, right? Well, I'm small, it's easy, I can handle this myself. And then it always happens. You can handle it until, and then you have nothing in place. And then you're like, oh, wow, this just happened. So do it now versus, when you can't do it anymore because you don't have any more time. You can only work 100 hours a week for so many weeks. Some people could do it for 2 years. Some people could do it for 6 months, right? Like, but at some point you're going to have to stop because you can't do it. And so having these policies and procedures, these expectations, so that if you do want to go on a vacation, things will still work. It's really important to have them in place. Okay.
All right. So termination.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's in some ways, this
we did a podcast on that.
We did. I mean, termination. I think. Termination, in a way, can. I don't know. I want to say it's like one of my favorite things to talk about, but that sounds really wrong.
That sounds really wrong. I judged that.
Yeah,
I judged that.
because who wants to be fired? But here's the thing: I am probably one of the most non-confrontational, like people pleasing, like back away from conflict people ever. And
we called her the hammer.
And
because the hammer's coming down.
But like when it came, but we had such clear expectations and guidelines and policy around termination, and I gave people a lot of chances, and I really worked hard, and I poured a lot into helping people to become the best employee that they could become. And then when it came down to it, and we checked all the boxes and we had done all the things, and it's just not working, right? Sometimes that was a long process over years, and sometimes that was like hours. But if they're not working for your company, they're a danger to your company. And, termination doesn't always have to be a terrible thing. It could be, it's just not the right fit and they don't have the skill sets for the job. But if you have all of those things clearly defined and laid out, it makes the process so black and white, or it can help it. It can help someone like me who hates confrontation, and doesn't want to hurt someone's feelings, right? Like, I don't want to, like, what did they have? They have rent, they have bills, they have a family, maybe they have responsibilities, and, maybe sometimes they were trying their best, but it just still is not working out. And you gotta say goodbye, and you have to let them fly. Anyways, it's so important to have those policies, and it's important to have those policies up front, like even before you hire somebody, so that you know how to fire them if that is needed.
Yeah, I mean, again, hopefully you don't have to do this often, right? But you're going to have to. You might as well accept that now. And so having those systems in place, like written and verbal warnings, super important. So, what are they doing wrong? It'd be very explicit. Again, we're not attorneys, so talk to an attorney.
Right, and then through that,
having that clear expectations of what policy they violated, how they can improve,
right,
and how long they have to improve, and then going through that process, very detailed expectations, and then having that action plan in place. And if they don't meet that, if they don't follow that action plan over that certain amount of time, then you have to terminate. And there may be other things in there that are just like, dude, you do this, you're gone, right? Like, fraudulently time in, time out.
What's that called? There's a name.
Immediate termination.
Yeah, immediate termination.
So, like,
does that depend on your state?
I am not an attorney.
Well, I know that.
So
it does, though, right? It's something that depends, right?
So I would talk to an attorney and make sure, but you should have a list of immediate terminations. So obviously if somebody fights somebody in the clinic, that you're not, if you see them incorrectly putting their time in and time out so that they get paid more. If somebody is fraudulently billing, they're cloning their timesheets, session notes. Like, these are just things that there's sexual abuse. Just, these are obvious things, illegal active. Like, there's just so many. But like sleeping on the job, on their phone, with a client. Like, there's going to be a list of things. Yes, there's going to be a list of things that you're like, if this happens, it's immediate termination. But also on that list, again, I'm not an attorney, but you would say this is not an all-encompassing list, right? These are just stupid obvious. And then yes, and then there's going to be other things, right? That you're like, I didn't, how, why did this, how, who, what? And you're going to just say, yeah, you're done. And so like, those are just things that you want to have in place. And then, you know, if you do have to terminate, and it's not just about like if somebody leaves the company on good terms, maybe they're moving across country or, you know, whatever, terminating their access. So like if you have a pin pad on the front door of your clinic, like how do you remove it so they can't come in the building? Do they have an iPad or a computer? Like, are you wiping their devices? And what if they don't give them back right away?
Policy of like any client information that they may have on their person that
so
they need to like drop
this
off?
is the question that I hear all the time. Like, they quit and they won't bring back the stuff, right? They won't bring back their device. They won't bring back the binder. Well, okay, then, you know, we always recommend talking to an attorney, but talk to your attorney. But like, if you know, you have that policy, return of property policy, and this is an expectation, and then you send a certified letter and say, look, you are no longer an employee of this company. You have private health information that you are not allowed to have. And we're reporting this to the police as theft. That typically you'll get your property back quite quickly, right?
Just a little tip: beware about you can't hold someone's pay.
No,
that's one thing that we do, and I just feel like I can't let this go. Like, know what you're allowed to do.
Yes. Like talk to an attorney.
Most of the times, you are not allowed to hold someone's pay. So just careful.
Never hold somebody's pay. There isn't. I don't know of any situation where that is a good idea. And you can get in a lot of trouble for that. So yeah, don't mess with pay. The government will, they're like, I don't know that it matters what state there's a lot of safety measures in place for staff on that. So yeah, don't hold pay, talk to an attorney, but typically a certified letter where they have to sign for it, from the company. Maybe their final check is in there. You're not holding pay, whatever. And they have to sign for that, and the letter's in there. And it just simply says, look, you have private health information that you're not supposed to have anymore. Here's the policy, the return of a company property policy. You're in violation of this. We have no other recourse but to contact the police and let them know that you have our property, right? And then that's it. So that's something that you want to have in place is, how do you remove access? And like, if you're like us, you're probably going to have a whole bunch of accounts for these people. So maybe you've got a Dropbox account, you've got a practice management software account, maybe they've got a training account on some site, maybe they got a CEU account, who knows, all the accounts. So having a list of all of those users is great, so you can just remove their access immediately, and you're not thinking, oh, which ones did they have? Like, you just don't want to be in that situation. You want to remove their access from all of this stuff immediately. We talked about pin number, key, like a keypad on the door versus locks is probably a better option, because you can just remove access immediately and you don't have to worry about keys, right? So
I mean, even though you might feel at the beginning that that's an expense, but just think about the expense of having to
re-key stuff.
Put a new lock and new keys and issuing them out to everyone.
And it's just not even the expense, it's just the time that it takes. And oh, well, I didn't get the new key and because I was out on the weekend and now I can't get to my set. Like just one missed or two missed sessions because they don't have the keys to get it. Is going to pay for the door lock with the pin pad, right? Like it's just, I would get it right away. It just makes your life easier. And with all of these things, you have to keep privacy, HIPAA compliance, state privacy law in mind. And again, an attorney, highly recommend you have an attorney for all of these things. But it's really important that you have clear expectations on termination, what could be defined as immediate termination, having those very extensive written and verbal warnings with clear expectations, and then having that exit interview and the termination of access. And typically, I would recommend giving an exit interview to anybody that'll fill it out. And you may not get great information, but you may see a trend that you wouldn't have otherwise. So you shouldn't just get a exit interview for people that are leaving on good terms. I would recommend an exit interview for everyone.
Right. And we did sometimes you'll be surprised, like sometimes you get more feedback from people who don't leave on good terms. I don't even remember who we used, but we used a third party at one point. I can't remember if it was just like somebody that like a virtual assistant type person that we hired, but a third party to collect to have a quick phone interview, to collect that exit interview. And I do feel like I was surprised that we did get some feedback from people who were willing to take the time to tell us how terrible we were. And so we got some feedback. And I mean, it was helpful. Like, all feedback is great, right? And
is it really?
No, it really is. I mean, sometimes you can weed out, right? You can definitely weed out, but you can, I like to look back and say, okay, well, where, what was our part in this, right? And how can we make this better? If nothing else, how can we communicate more clearly next time, right? So, but yes, exit interviews are definitely an important thing to have. Well, so now here comes to the time of this series of podcasts that we share with you a little snippet of the handbook.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is the employee handbook, very similar to the client handbook. If you've watched this series on the handbooks, you know the formatting is the same. We have the placeholders. I'm not going to show it this time, but if you double click here, you'll get a pop-up and it'll say, what's your company number? What's your company address? What's your company fax number? It will change it throughout this document. Some of them, if you see here, some of them have text limits just because spacing issues. If the character limit that we have on it is not enough for you, you can just do a find all, replace all. And this just helps with the, making these your own quicker. Again, we are not attorneys. And I don't know what you're doing with these things. So I do highly recommend that you have someone with HR competency review these after you finalize them. And then you're going to remove all these disclaimers, put your own logo in, and do what you will. This one, I think this is the 2023 version, so not everything is in this one, but I think we're at 95 pages now. We talked about, we didn't talk about this, but like interviewee non-disclosure and interviewee questions, super important to have standard interviewee questions. And then we have the employee verbal warning. We have the written warning. We have the exit interview questionnaire. We have the exit interview checklist. So again, what services, practice management, email, calendar, cloud storage, what access do they have to company information? How do we stop that? We're an equal opportunity employer. We have the accidents at work, right? So the incident report or safety policy, the return of company property, the return of company property policy that we talked about, the employee, the email account policy, social media policy. So, all of these things are in here. I'm just going to go to one policy. So this is the overview of the company. Welcome to the family. This is the acknowledgement of receipt of the handbook. This is like how probationary period works, how training works. Again, yellow highlights are in here for areas that you definitely need to go over, but you need to review this entire handbook before you give it to someone. Like on the last podcast, we talked about this, but like you don't want to give somebody a handbook and be learning about a policy that you have in place at the same time as them, right? Like that's not the way to do it. You want to know what is in your handbook. You want to be able to stand by what is in your handbook, and you want to make sure, like we talked about already, but like what is your paid time off policy and how much time do they have to give? Like you want that to be something that you can follow, that you agree with, that you will hold people to account. And that's it. So if you do have any other questions, you want to see some of the policies in more detail, feel free to book a free consult on our website. Okay, so that's the handbook.
Hooray.
Excited, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we are on to frequently asked questions. All right, so I'll just hop right in.
Yep.
First question is, how detailed should job descriptions be in the handbook? Well, I'm going to answer that one.
Okay.
It's as detailed, as well as you want someone to understand what's expected of them. Of course, general job descriptions for a specific position are not going to always be all encompassing, right? Like you're going to try to put all the pieces as much as possible.
So we have our super detailed job descriptions in our company policy handbook. So these are have been they have the how much weight are you going to lift and how much travel time are you going to be doing, things like that. But in the client handbook, these are the employee handbook, these are just kind of general terms, and then you're describing more in the employee handbook of what are the details of the job that they're expected to do. Not so much you will be required to lift 25 pounds. That's not what we're doing here. How do you fill out an incident report? What happens in an emergency? What what happens in a fire in a home? Right? How do you interact with families? A dual relationship, right? Things like that they're going to actually run into on the day-to-day thing. Does that make sense? And then our company policies, we talk about infectious disease and OSHA requirements, lifting and cleaning and cleaning supplies and things like that. Does that make sense? So yeah. So in an employee and the client handbook, they're kind of general, and then on the company side, again, for management, you have these very detailed, specific job descriptions of each level. So your clinical director, your director of operations, maybe you have a lead BCBA or something like that, a regular BCBA, a tech, an admin person.
And then, of course, part of your onboarding and training that's specific to your company and your staff, right, is to have a very specific, clear job description. Further than a job description, really, right? And that's where you can even go into the checklist. And that's really what the employee handbook is, above and beyond what a job description would be, I guess. Does that make sense? An employee handbook.
Yeah, an employee handbook is
above and beyond
what the job description is, right? It's what you're going to run into on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, all the policies and procedures and how to handle that, right?
Yes.
Not just the day-to-day.
Correct.
Collecting data.
You're expected to collect data, right? It goes into details about
Right.
Again,
no, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying, as far as very specific, the ABA nitty-gritty of taking data and how to do that,
sure.
And all of that clinical piece is going to be part of your company,
right?
Your guidelines and your training process, but also we have checklists and stuff,
correct.
Very extensive checklists.
Yes, and that's where the RBT checklist.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Of all of those little nitty gritty pieces of all the very particular clinical side of things.
Yes. Yeah.
Next question: what's the best approach to developing a comprehensive benefits section?
Yeah, this again, it depends on the state is the first thing. So some of this you may not even be able to say, I'm not doing this, mileage, you have to pay for drive time. And you know what? Leave a comment. I don't care. So yes, you do. Yes, you do. So, but you may not have to. You may not have to pay mileage. So the Fed just says job site to job site, you have to pay drive time. It's required. And then there was even a case here recently about, they were very descriptive on, they had, I think, 6 different scenarios on what would be considered job site to job site. They very specific. So you can look that up. But it's you have to pay for drive time, but you may not have to pay for mileage. And then your state may require that, again, an employee works X amount of hours a week, they get X amount of paid time off during that period. So you may be forced to provide paid time off. So some of these things you may not have an option to do. I think California now requires that you provide health insurance to employees. So some of these things you may have to do right from the get-go because of state law. And then there are other things that maybe you may not be required by law, but maybe you can't provide health insurance right now, but you can provide mileage reimbursement because that's just an easy write-off, and it's a benefit that, can be very helpful to staff. And so, yeah, maybe I can give you a $100 stipend for healthcare. I can't provide healthcare right now, but I can give you that and mileage reimbursement, or I'll give you some paid time off. But as you grow, you may want to add 401k, short-term and long-term disability, even CEU packages so that you're paying for their CEUs. So those are things that, over time we added to our benefits. We didn't start off with, amazing healthcare and vacation time and sick time. And, this is stuff that we added over time slowly as we could afford it. So I don't know if that kind of answers this question. But that's stuff that you can develop over time. But again, follow your state requirements to make sure that you're doing what you are legally required to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. How can I make my code of conduct reflect ABA ethical guidelines? I
mean, we get asked this quite often, like, should I make my own code of conduct? And really, I would just recommend pointing to the BACB's guidelines. And if you're an RBT or a BCBA, you should know your ethics.
Well, and too, if you're in your state, if you're governed by the medical board,
sure.
If you have a license in medical, then you also have
to follow that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
In what ways can I ensure my handbook is accessible and understandable to all employees?
And I think last podcast, we talked about this, though, having quizzes can be very helpful, open book quizzes that can tell you if it's understandable or not, and getting feedback, right? As you're doing the onboarding process, getting feedback from these people and saying, how was that? Was that easy to understand? Or, was that I see it took longer for you to complete this section than, we say you should. What happened in that scenario? You may get some feedback to say, yeah, this doesn't really make sense to me, or it takes longer than you say it will. But yeah, just taking that feedback can be very helpful. And having the quizzes in place.
And then how having the most recent up-to-date version available in whatever digital, whatever portal, employee portal that you have, whether that's in a SharePoint or a Google Drive, or however you have that information for your staff, and so that it can be easily accessed in the most recent version of it.
Yeah.
How do I handle updates and changes to the handbook, especially with evolving ABA practices? Well, first of all, anytime you update the policy or procedure and you put it into place, you have to notify all of your staff and have them read it and sign it,
acknowledge it,
put and then you put an addendum into your handbook until let's say if you only update your handbook once a year or whatever, you could still add addendums. Is that the right word to it? And then that following year you can combine it all together.
In our company policies, we have how you update policies, right? So you should have a process on this as well, as stupid as that may sound. How do I
process for your process?
So it's oh man. So it is what it is. But yeah, so just having, okay, this is what we're gonna do when we add a policy. This is how we distribute it out. This is how we know that people have read it. You just want to have, again, when you have 3 people, this may sound stupid and ridiculous and take more time than it should, when you can simply just go over to someone and say, hey, can you see this policy? Can you just read it real quick? But when you get 50 people, that doesn't work anymore, right? And somebody's like, yeah, I read it, and they didn't read it, right? And so this just takes that out. And so you might as well build it out from the start.
And on that note, as I hold back a yawn,
get off my grass.
I get a grumpy, salty old guy. Oh, well, thank you. That's all I have today. Yeah. So
and if you do want to see them again, just do a free consult on our website. click on the About Us or hover over the About Us. You'll see the booking pages and you can select there. Or there's also a link on the bottom of the website in the footer. So yeah, sign up for a free consult. We'll show it to you. But they also come with free updates. So,
well, thank you so much for joining in today and learning what top five things you should have in your employee handbook. And we thank you for taking time with us out of your busy schedule. And we look forward to next time.
Oh, like, subscribe, comment, only if you have a good comment though. And yeah, just share us as much as possible.
Get the word out.
Because we need to get paid.
Or perhaps it's because we want to get the word out to help have more ethical, quality ABA businesses out there.
Maybe that's it.
All right, so we're going to go hydrate and get over this cold and brain fog that seems to have been affected us. Anyways, have a great day.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.